Muted.
Hey everybody, this is Coach Troy, and we're about ready to get started. We'll wait for another minute or two before we get started on tonight's webinar, which is about strength training for cyclists. So just hang in there for a few more minutes, if you will, and then we'll get started. Thank you. All right, we're going to wait another minute. I know some people it takes a little while to get the program uploaded to their site. So hopefully you can see my screen. I sent out a chat message to everybody. Did anybody see, or can you see my screen, and can you hear me? I'm going to ask that as well. If you're by your computer, send me a little note, if you will. Okay, Carrie, thank you. Loud and clear. All right, Richard, thanks. Appreciate you guys responding.
Gina here.
All right, thanks for everyone responding. Appreciate that. So we have a few more people coming on. We're going to wait another minute or two, and then we'll get started. We'll go about half an hour tonight with some Q&A. So thanks for taking your time on a Tuesday evening. I'm wondering where everybody's from. If you can, send me a chat message. Let me know where you're from. Are you guys from East Coast, the Midwest, the South, the Northeast, Southwest, Baltimore? Somebody's from Baltimore? I know Baltimore pretty well. Burlington, Ontario, Canada, Colorado. All right, some good distribution there. I'm in Tucson, Arizona, Buffalo, New York, and New York. Gosh, it's got to be so cold out there right now. I was in Wisconsin last week, and it was, I don't know, sub 20-degree temperatures. And today in Tucson, it was about 65 and sunny. I can't say that I really miss that warm weather. So, and honestly, there's not a whole lot of indoor training going on. I mean, there can be. It's funny. I'm from the East Coast, and I used to train outdoors all the time in whatever weather I could, and of course had to go indoors. Out here, we're fair weather cyclists. If it's 60 degrees, a lot of people don't even go out, but that's just the way it goes. All right, well, let's get started. Thanks, everybody, for being on the call. Tonight, again, we're going to talk about the strength training for cyclists, and this is the third presentation in our webinar series, and we've got a pretty enthusiastic response to it, so I do appreciate that and appreciate you guys taking your time. And this is recorded, so it will be archived, and I'll send this out to our Facebook page as well as to our member page. Let's talk about strength training for cyclists. I think it's a really important topic and one that we should all really embrace. This can be a pretty high-level discussion, but let's get into it. Today we will learn about Spinervals cycling philosophy on strength training for performance, in particular for the bike. We'll have an overview over different exercises and philosophy and so on and so forth, and then we'll open up to some Q&A towards the end. So pretty simple, won't last that long. We'll be on the call for a little bit tonight, and then you can be on your way. So strength training is important in terms of enhancing performance as well as injury prevention, and I think we all know that. There's enough information out there about strength training that it's very, very well accepted now in the athletic performance community. So everyone is doing it, and everybody should be doing it because it's really important. 2 years ago, Dr. Mark Leon and I partnered to write a book called Triathlon Anatomy. It was published by Human Kinetics. So a lot of my presentation tonight will be based on the information in that book. And it's unfortunately not a New York bestseller. We didn't expect it to be, but we had some really good feedback from the book, lots of great illustrations and so forth. So I'll be pulling from the book today. And although it was designed with the triathlete in mind, obviously we had a cycling section in there. So I'll be going over some of the exercises I like as they relate to indoor cycling and how you might be able to incorporate these into your training program, into your cycling training program. By the way, if you would like to purchase that book, it is available on Amazon and lots of other places. And we actually have it published in several different languages, including Russian, Japanese, Spanish, and I believe German. So it's pretty cool. It's internationally distributed, which is, and I have copies of those different languages, and pretty interesting to read. So what are the intentions? What should the intentions be for your training program with regard to strength work? Well, first of all, it's a year-round pursuit. So it's not something you just do in the winter months. I remember many years ago, endurance athletes used to embrace strength work only in the winter months, and that was about it. And then they basically checked out, and they didn't really pursue it during the in-season. And so that's no longer the way we approach strength training in the athletic performance community. We look at strength training as a year-round pursuit, and it's really important to keep that in mind. Similar to progression and periodization that you might incorporate into a program with your sport-specific training, there's also that need in your strength work, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But I do mention here we have a periodized approach to strength work, and there's still some merit to the fact that because you have more time to train with regard to strength work in the winter months, you might incorporate more volume or more overall workload in the winter months. But again, you continue with your strength work in a maintenance program throughout the entire year, and that's very important. Your primary focus should be on building your strength and, of course, your balance. You know, it's no longer just to lift heavy weights and see how big and strong you get. In fact, that's counterintuitive and counterproductive for endurance athletes to put on a lot of muscle mass. First of all, to be honest, it's not really going to happen for most of us. We do have some folks who are easy gainers, and you may be one. If you're an easy gainer, good for you. I'm jealous. An easy gainer would be defined as somebody who basically looks at a weight and gets bigger and stronger and looks that way. Most endurance athletes that I've run across are not easy gainers, and I think it's because of the proportion or contribution of fast and slow twitch muscle fibers. And so, of course, endurance athletes tend to be more flow twitch muscle fiber dominant, and slow twitch muscle fibers don't really get big. They gain endurance. So therefore, a lot of endurance athletes tend to be smaller statured, and it's harder for endurance athletes to put on muscle weight. The other reason is endurance training alone is counterintuitive to putting on mass. So if you look at the bodybuilding community or the powerlifting community, those folks who put on a lot of mass purposely, they literally stay away from cardio. And bodybuilders, for example, will stay away from cardio until they cut up for a show. Otherwise, they do very little to burn excess calories, and they just focus on putting on mass with regard to their diet and their training progression and how they look at lifting weights, their set rep scheme, the weights that they use, and so on and so forth. The way we do it as endurance athletes is a little bit different, and it's important to keep that distinction in mind. When you are strength training, which again is a year-round pursuit, you want to make sure that you're eating the right diet to really enhance muscle or strength development. And let me be clear, there will be some muscle gain. You know, if you're doing any resistance training, there will be some muscle gain. My point, I guess, is that you're likely not going to put on a ton of weight or a ton of muscle mass unless, of course, you are an easy gainer. But otherwise, there will be a little bit of muscle development, but nothing to hopefully hurt your performance in your sport. But you want to make sure you're eating properly because you're putting energy and time into your resistance training. So make sure you're taking in plenty of protein. And again, let's look at the extreme model. If you look at the extreme in terms of bodybuilders and powerlifters, they do a lot of supplements, for example, branched chain amino acids, and they will time their amino acid intake to hit before, during, and even after a workout. So that's a lot, but that's what they need to stimulate muscle growth. We probably don't need to go to that level, but if you want to really get the results, you need to make sure that your protein intake is adequate, that you're consuming enough protein, and that it's the right quality protein. All these are very important when doing your strength work and getting the most out of it. You also want to make sure that your strength work complements your sport-specific training. So what I mean by that is, keep in mind, we're cyclists, okay? I think most of us on this call are probably really focused on our cycling performance and taking it to the next level. And if that's the case, we have to keep in mind that we are not powerlifters, we are not weightlifters, we're not bodybuilders, we are cyclists. So what we do with strength work is to complement our performance enhancement for the bike. And so keep in mind that if you have a choice to do a cycling workout or a strength workout, or better yet, constraints, right? You have time constraints. Most of the time, you're going to be better off spending your time on the bike. And that's because we need to focus on our sport-specific training in order to get better at our sport. There's skill development. There's just a lot of energy systems we need to focus on. And strength work, again, is secondary and complementary to our sport-specific training. So keep that in mind. So when you are strength training for endurance, what kind of methodology do you pursue? Well, first of all, you want to look at using moderate weights. You have to keep in mind, light weights aren't really going to be effective because light weights don't create the stimulus to make the muscle stronger. If you're just doing super high reps, really light weights, there's an argument that you're really kind of wasting your time, especially the fact that you already do a lot of endurance work anyway on the bike. So you want to make sure that you're lifting moderate weights, moderate to heavy in some cases, that stimulate the muscle to actually become stronger. That's an important point. And then with your set rep scheme, you're looking at 3 to 5 sets with 10 to 15 repetitions. And, you know, you can go as low as 8, but for most endurance athletes, you're going to want to stay in that 10 to 15 repetition range. And oftentimes your set scheme will be, the first set will be a warm-up set. Maybe you'll do 15 reps with a lighter weight, and then you'll progress to heavier weight, and your reps will come down. But one thing I do want to stress is, in at least a couple of the sets, you should use a weight where you struggle to complete the set. Again, you need to stimulate the muscle in order for it to grow, and if you don't do that, you're basically wasting your time. So make sure that you are adding enough weight so that you are struggling to finish the set. And by struggling, I don't mean you're in pain or anything like that, just that you're having difficulty because of the weight to finish. That's an important point. The other thing is to have a rest interval of anywhere from 30 to 90 seconds between each set. And what I like to do, and I recommend that you do, because it's a very time-efficient way to train, is to do a circuit type workout, or to combine different body parts within a workout. So in other words, do, say for example, you're doing shoulders, and you're doing a shoulder press. So you do your 8 to 10 reps with the shoulder press with dumbbells. What do you do during that minute rest? Well, if you're only going to work out for 30 minutes, let's do some crunches. Let's do some V-sits. Let's do some core work between each set. So basically, you have a very high energy set that's really boosting your metabolic rate. You're burning calories, and you're getting a lot out of the workout. You're not wasting time. For me, the biggest waste of time is doing a set and then sitting around for 90 seconds waiting to do the next set. I get bored out of my mind. I can't stand it. And so I'm always moving in the workout between different exercises that aren't going to affect one another. So usually if I'm working a pulling muscle group, then I might go to a pushing muscle group. Or if I'm working upper body, then I might go and do something lower body, and I'll go back and forth. And I find that's a really effective way to maximize my workout in the least amount of time. So that's what I mean by active workout. So you're stimulating your metabolism, and you're getting the benefit of the resistance training and making your muscles stronger. And that goes to my point. Don't waste time. Make these workouts into sessions that really maximize your time and efficiency. So let's talk about some of these other points, in particular legs. And I'm really focusing on the legs here because obviously we work a lot on our legs on the bike. And it goes back to our concept of sport specificity. You want to really focus on your sport and your skill development and your fitness development in the sport. That's how you're going to get faster. I've seen this. And in fact, I remember when I was a younger athlete in my 20s, I went through a little experimentation phase where I lifted a lot and I really got strong in my lower body. And I come from a football background where I used to do squats. I remember putting 3 45-pound plates on each side of the squat rack, so that's 315 pounds, and bang out sets of like 10 reps. Ridiculous strength. I can't even imagine putting that on my back now, but that was a long, long time ago. But I remember getting in my 20s when I was in triathlon and riding a bike well, that I thought, I'm going to go back to that background and see what it does for me on the bike. So I got really strong with the weights, did nothing or hardly anything for me on the bike. In fact, I felt like I rode slower. I wasn't putting as much time on the bike. So again, thinking that by doing a lot of squats and getting really strong, it's counterintuitive. It's a different kind of fitness, okay? So remember, it's complementary to your sport-specific fitness, all right? So, but let's talk about strength work on the bike for your legs. So 2 times a week. I say 2 times a week because you're riding probably, 3 to 5, maybe 6 times a week. I know if you're doing the Super 6 right now, you're riding the bike 5 and 6 days a week. So you're putting a lot of stress on your legs anyway. There's a lot of fatigue being drilled into your legs. If you add on 3 days a week of heavy leg work, boom, you're in trouble. You're not going to recover, and you're not going to see the kind of results you want to see. So I say 2 times a week with the resistance work is probably going to be your best bet. In some cases, 1 time a week, especially when it comes in season, when you're actually riding your bike, doing a lot of high-intensity work, and you have events coming up. You don't want to do 2 weight workouts a week. In fact, you might only want to do 1 every 10 days. So that changes your whole paradigm there. Instead of doing 2 workouts every 7 days, you're doing 1 every 10 days. So there's different ways to slice and dice this, and ideally you'll be working with a coach who can help and assist you with your strength work. Stabilization work. What I mean by that is, I'm a big believer in the main muscle movers like your squats and your lunges, and we'll talk about those. Those are awesome exercises and really key. But I also think you need some of the concentration work, some of the isolation work, especially as we get older and our knees get bad and some of our injuries pop up. For example, leg extensions and leg curls. I like those. I know some fitness professionals don't like the isolation work with the machines like that, but I really think they're effective. And I know Dr. Mark Leon, who co-authored the book with me, also feels that same way. And it's really important that you incorporate some of that isolation work into your program as well. Plyometrics for developing explosive power, and along with that should be some isometric work. But you can see there we have a couple of plyometric drills, the box jumps, and also the vertical jumps. And then monitor how you recover. And this is going to be different for everybody. But my point here is, again, you're doing a lot of leg work already on the bike. I mean, if you have a really comprehensive bike training program, you're doing some interval work, you're doing threshold work, tempo work, aerobic work, technique sessions at high cadence. All that's fitting into your week. And then on top of that, you're doing your strength work. So you got to make sure you're recovering properly from this load of work that you're putting on your legs, okay? That's why I say watch it carefully and don't overdo the legs. And finally, at the end there, I say again, remember, you're a cyclist. You're not a bodybuilder. You're not a weightlifter. You're a cyclist. And everything you do with the weight should complement your cycling. So your legs and your glutes, they're your powerhouse, right? You know, I mean, that's what we're trying to develop for the bike. That's where you get all the power that you're putting to the pedals. That's where you create your watts, you know, your functional threshold power, which a lot of you doing the Super 6 are familiar with. You know, that you want that number to go up. You want to be in that, well, everyone, it's relative, but gosh, I mean, we always want to improve. But, you know, there's athletes out there, 400 some watts at FTP, incredible. And I tell you what, those athletes, they're not the strongest in the world. It's not like they can squat 500 pounds. It's just that they're able to produce this consistent level of power output for extended periods of time. So that's where your strength training should complement. I already mentioned these two exercises. These are cornerstone exercises. I think they're incredibly important and should be an integral part of your training program. Your lunges, you can do these in a variety of different ways, walking lunges, lunges with a barbell on your back like we're showing here, and then, of course, your squat. The squat is one of the most popular exercises for so many sports. It basically works every muscle group in your legs and will really help take you a long way. Now, one very important piece to note there is to have proper form. A lot of people do not squat with proper form, and if you don't, you can get yourself hurt. It's hard to explain what that is here, and that's not the scope of this talk. But if you are questioning your form with the squat, look up some YouTube videos or go to your local gym or Lifetime Fitness and find a fitness professional to help you. But incorporating squats is a really good idea. Take you a long way. And you don't even have to use a barbell. Just use your own weight. Prisoner squats. Anybody who's ever done a Strendurance video knows about prisoner squats, where you just use body weight and you bang out anywhere from 10 to 15 reps. I like using dumbbells, just holding a 30 to 50 pound dumbbell in each hand and going down and doing my squats. It's just really effective. And then I mentioned some isolation exercises. Leg extensions, incredibly powerful exercise for your quads and all those important muscles surrounding your knee. And I know some of us have knee issues. I certainly do. And leg extensions are really important in my maintenance program for my knees. And then, of course, stability ball hamstring. There's all kinds of creative work you can do for your hamstrings, and that's a really effective one right there. So let's talk a little bit about upper body. We talked about lower body and plyometrics, and we talked about the major exercises like the squat and the lunge, and then our isolation exercises. So we've covered the legs, and then you may say to yourself, well, I'm a cyclist. I don't need to use up my upper body. But that's not true. You're using your upper body to stabilize your position on the bike, and depending on the kind of cyclist you are, you're actually using your upper body more than you think. Every time you get out of the saddle, you're using your upper body, and if you have a very weak upper body, you're not going to be able to move the bike and generate the power that you could with a strong upper body. And if you're a mountain biker, oh boy, you certainly need upper body strength. Overall conditioning, so important. And of course, some of you are triathletes, and you know the importance of upper body there as well. I recently got into mountain biking, and I'm doing an event coming up here. In fact, a 24-hour race on a team, and just been riding my mountain bike a lot. Absolutely love it. But again, I'm fairly new to this, and I'm just amazed at how much fatigue I have in my upper body after a really good mountain bike workout in some technical single track and rocky area and downhills. So I can see the total value in upper body work. But this is a really key upper body workout, or exercise rather, for your pulling muscles, in particular your lats and your biceps. And this is your typical lat pull down. And you'll notice just one technical concern here is that the bar's coming down underneath your chin. You know, in the old days, I know you might see some bodybuilders pull it down behind their neck, but that's really counterintuitive. So don't do that. It puts a lot of stress on your shoulders and your rotator cuff. So don't do that. Pull it down under your chin. Here's some other exercises for your back. Your seated row, super effective. You have variations for this, including using dumbbells. You can use cables. You can do a cable seated row like you're showing here. And then, of course, the pull-up, the good old-fashioned pull-up, similar to the lat pull-down, only that you're using body weight. And hopefully you can do some. You know, a lot of people can't do any pull-ups, especially cyclists, because we don't focus on our upper body. But we should. You know, we want to be well-rounded overall athletes, and it's going to make you a better athlete if you're stronger. So work on that pull-up. Work to the point where you can get sets of 6 reps to 10 reps, and at that point you're getting pretty strong. So make that your goal. Let's go to the other part, your pushing muscles, right? Your triceps and your pecs. Again, stabilizing yourself on the bike, really important, and just for overall strength, maintaining muscle mass, health, longevity, all these different pieces. I love the dip. Again, similar to the pull-up, some people can't do it with their body weight. There are the assisted dip machines that you can use, and I really recommend it. It works on your pecs, your triceps really effectively. And then, of course, the push-up, the good old-fashioned push-up. You know what we should have done? We should have everybody do push-ups while you're listening to this webinar. That would be perfect. I should have said that at the beginning. Everyone needs to do 20 push-ups during the time of this webinar. But super effective, super easy to do, works all those pushing muscles once again. And again, many variations. The core, you know, the core, you always hear about the core, but again, one of those really important areas to focus on when it comes to riding a bike for stabilizing your position, producing power on the bike, and all these different aspects. And these are just some of the exercises that you can incorporate into your program. I really like using cables. In fact, I love using cables. That cable machine at your club is, you don't need anything else but that. You can work out with that for half an hour and get a full body workout that's unbelievable. And there's so many variations of exercises that you can do. And here's just one of them, the wood chopper. Another thing, of course, is that stability ball. And you can see this stability ball prayer roll, which really focuses on your core, your lats, and will just help build your strength unbelievably. And then, of course, the old-fashioned deadlift, if you do it again with proper form. Look at all the muscle groups here that are highlighted that this exercise works. It's just an unbelievably effective exercise for building strength. And they even claim, as with the squat, that it actually helps release growth hormone when you do these exercises. So adding another component to your muscle building activity. And then, of course, this other exercise we're showing here, the V-sit. Really a tough exercise, but look at all the muscle groups again. Your abs, your obliques, that exercise works on. So work on your V-sits as well. The plank, that's an isometric exercise. We do some of those in our strength endurance, and I think the plank is a really good one. You know, plank for a minute or 2 minutes. You can see some people will hold it for 5 minutes, and look at all the muscle groups again in the core that one focuses on. And again, the Russian twist using resistance is another good exercise. So that's a quick overview of some exercise I recommend incorporating into your program. As you could see there, we worked on the legs. We worked on your pulling muscles, your upper back. We worked on your pushing muscles, in particular your shoulders and your chest. And then we also worked on your core. So really simple. You don't need to do a million different exercises to have an effective program. You'll notice that I did not have arm-specific exercises. I didn't put curls in there or tricep pushdowns. You can certainly do those. Feel absolutely free to. But again, I look at efficiency, and when you're doing a pull-up, you're working your biceps. When you're doing a push-up, you're working your triceps. You don't need a whole lot of other work for those muscle groups. Yes, it's nice to walk around with big arms. I don't have them, but maybe you want them, and if you do, you need to do those bicep curls. But for being a better cyclist, they're really not that important in the end. In fact, if you watch the tour, look at the arms on some of those fellows. There's not a whole lot of bicep curls going on for that elite level because they're so focused on minimizing their weight in the upper body. So here's some training tips. You want to train with the weights 2 to 4 times per week, and again, that will vary according to the time of year in your race preparation. You know, if you're in season, it'll be less. If you're out of season, you'll be probably hitting the weights more often. Again, you don't want to hit any particular muscle group more than, say, twice a week, because resistance training is different than endurance sports training, okay? Endurance sports training, you can do it every day. In fact, the elites train every day. In fact, the elites will train for hours every day. It's a different kind of physiology. For resistance training, which is intended to build muscle and strength, you don't want to train every day because the muscle won't recover and actually accomplish its goal of getting stronger. So you want to make sure you have rest and recovery between workouts. Break it up into 4 to 6 week cycles, just like we do with our cycling progressions. We want to make sure that we change things up. You know, CrossFit, a lot of you are doing that. A lot of folks embrace CrossFit. That's a great example of just incredible variety. Do you ever do the same thing in your WOD, workout of the day? No, they do something different almost every day. So variety is important. I do like adaptation, though. I do like to get adapted, and then once you're at a threshold, then you change it up, right? And then all of a sudden, your body's got to figure something else up, and it responds by growing again, okay? So I do like some level of adaptation to a routine, and then you break it up. Mix it up, add variety. So I just presented a few different exercises. There are a million different alternatives, a million, and you should incorporate as much as you have to maintain that variety in your program and keep it exciting. You can use kettlebells, you can use dumbbells, you can use barbells, you can use body weight, you can use TRX. I mean, there's so many ways to do it. Always work to increase your weight, your weights. So what I mean by this is, don't get stagnant. You know, don't just say, all right, I'm using 15-pound dumbbells, that's all I'm going to do. That's not how we get stronger. We need to add additional stimuli to our muscles in order for them to grow and become stronger. So make sure that you're trying to consistently add weight in order to get stronger. Increase workloads and monitor your recovery, and reduce strength work during key ride weeks, and also in preparation for races. Like I said earlier, during a peak time in your race preparation or event preparation, you want to scale back your strength work because it's complementary. During your peak training volume, when you're putting in hard intervals and a lot of volume on the weekends and you're really getting ready, you want to back off on your strength work, again, because it's complementary. You don't want your strength work to negatively impact your sport-specific training. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so we do, I just want to mention this, we do have a program on DVD if anybody is interested. We do incorporate this into our Super 6 training plan, and that is our Strendurance. And basically this is a 12-week progression that you do 2 to 3 times a week. It's full body workouts that are 20 to 30 minutes long, and they're progressive, and they use time and intensity. So instead of going for reps, we use time. So in other words, how many push-ups can you do in 20 seconds? And then in the next block, 2 to 4 weeks later, we say, how many can you do in 30 seconds? So what happens is, by the end of the 12-week progression, the athlete, where they started doing maybe 10 push-ups in 20 seconds, they're doing 30 push-ups in 30 seconds. And it's just an incredible way to monitor your strength gains. And all the exercises are set up like this, and it's fairly high intensity. At the end of the 12 weeks, you go into a maintenance program. Just a really effective progression designed for post-season or off-season, and it's called Strendurance, and it's available at Spinervals.com, but it incorporates some of the strategies that I've been talking about tonight. So some other stuff coming up as we near the end of our presentation here. oh, I put the indoor tri. We actually do have indoor tri at some other lifetimes coming up this spring if you're interested. And, of course, our training camps. We have a camp in Tucson, Las Vegas, Lake Placid, and Boulder, Colorado. Tucson's coming up in late March, and really looking forward to that one. Come on out here and ride Mount Lemmon and some other fantastic rides under the nice warm sun. So those of you in upstate New York, come on down. And then we have Vegas 2 weeks after Tucson. That's a great camp as well. We ride the Red Rock Loop. Lots of fun, lots to do at night, lots of camaraderie. And then Lake Placid, boy, this is my favorite camp, I think. I think this will be my 16th year for doing Lake Placid, and we actually coordinate it with the Lake Placid Half Marathon. So if you're a triathlete, we'll actually do the half marathon on Sunday. But we ride the course, beautiful area, awesome town, so come on out for that. And then Boulder, Colorado is a new camp for us. All right, well, thanks for joining me. That's the end of our presentation. However, I will stay on and open up to some Q&A. So if you have any questions, why don't we do that by chat? And now, you know what? I am going to unmute everybody, and we can do it because we don't have a lot of people on the call. So I'm going to unmute you, and then if you have a question, why don't you ask it, and I will respond. Here we go. I'm going to unmute you right now. Okay, everyone's unmuted. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks, Troy. Good presentation.
Hello. Any questions that I can answer?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay, David asked, mix this up during aerobic sessions. I'm not sure what you mean there, David. What would you like to know about the aerobic sessions? Okay, I guess the question is, I'm really not clear what the question is because you just asked the strength training you covered today. Are you asking about how to incorporate strength training with your cycling sessions in a day of workout? Ah, there you are. Okay, good question. So my philosophy is you always do your sport-specific training first. I think your priority should be on the work that's most important to you. And in this case, it would be your cycling, and then your strength work would be secondary. So that would be later in the day. So try to do your sport-specific training first, and then you do your cycling, or your strength work after. Hopefully that makes sense. Other questions? All right. Well, listen, thank you so much for being on this call. Do appreciate it. Again, this is recorded, and we'll post it to YouTube. So if you have any desire to listen to it again or you want somebody to listen to it, point them in that direction. Carrie, thank you very much for that. Appreciate your comment there. And we will continue with this series. I don't know what the next one will be yet, but I'll put that out there in the next week and schedule the date, and we'll do it. So once again, thank you very much, and everybody have a great evening and a great weekend. Good night.